The human battleship glided through the endless void of space, its hull shining with a brilliance that no alien eye had ever seen before. The engines hummed a deep, steady rhythm that spoke of power and precision, and inside the ship the crew moved, with calm efficiency, every action deliberate, every motion purposeful, as if they were part of a single living entity. The captain stood on the bridge observing the cosmos with quiet confidence, knowing that every system was operating at peak efficiency, and every soldier was ready for whatever awaited them. Beyond the darkness, the alien observers had been monitoring the human vessel for hours, whispering among themselves as they tried to comprehend the sheer size and complexity of the ship. They had never encountered a design like this one, and its weaponry was unlike any they had catalogued. The main cannon alone could obliterate a cruiser in moments, and the adaptive shields that rippled across its hull seemed to anticipate attacks before they happened. The aliens felt a sense of unease that quickly turned into fascination and even awe. They had assumed humans were primitive and weak in all aspects of warfare. But this vessel defied every expectation, from the smallest detail to the largest structural innovation. The humans had thought of everything and built a war machine that was not just powerful, but elegant and terrifying. At the same time, inside the ship, the crew was aware of the attention they were drawing. But they remained calm. The communications officer monitored alien frequencies and noted the trembling voices of their commanders, and the strategic officer charted courses that would keep them safe, while testing the limits of the battleship's capabilities. The captain gave orders with clarity and precision, and the soldiers executed them without hesitation. There was no panic, no fear, only a sense of readiness that seemed to radiate from every human on board. And as they approached the edge of the monitored sector, the alien fleet sent a signal, a warning demanding that the humans turn back or face destruction. The humans acknowledged the message but did not respond with aggression. Instead, they activated their observation protocols, analyzing every wave of data, every pulse of energy emanating from the alien ships, and it was in that silence that the humans showed their true strength. Their presence alone was a statement that they were not to be underestimated, and the aliens could not help but feel a twinge of fear mixed with admiration. They had assumed they would intimidate humans with a show of force, but the humans did not flinch. They did not hesitate. They simply existed as a perfect balance of power and composure, and the alien commanders began to whisper frantically among themselves, trying to interpret what they were seeing. And the humans on the bridge observed the strange reactions with detached curiosity. Understanding that the aliens were unprepared for what was coming, they had assumed superiority. But humans had always thrived in situations where others underestimated them. The sensors picked up alien patrols maneuvering closer, and yet the humans remained calm. The ship adjusted its orientation, and the engines purred like a predator preparing to strike. Not because they needed to attack, but because they were ready to defend if necessary. And that readiness radiated an aura that the aliens could feel across the vacuum of space. And as the distance closed, the aliens could not tear their gaze away from the human battleship. It was larger than any vessel they had deployed. It was faster, and its hull shimmered with a strength that made them question every assumption they had ever held about humanity. And deep within the core of the ship, the captain allowed a brief smile, knowing that the humans had arrived at the edge of known space, and already the universe was beginning to take notice of the species that had once been underestimated. Now they were impossible to ignore. And as the human battleship glided silently toward the alien fleet, it became clear that this was not just a ship. This was a statement, and in that moment, every alien who saw it understood that humanity had arrived in the cosmos, not to follow rules, not to bow to authority, but to assert itself in a way that would leave every observer in awe and fear at the same time. And the story of this encounter had only just begun. The human battleship approached the alien scouting fleet, its massive silhouette casting shadows across the void that the aliens had never experienced before. Their sensors flickered with confusion and disbelief as they tried to calculate the size, speed, and weaponry of the vessel. And yet, the humans remained calm. The crew moved with quiet determination, each member performing their tasks with precision and unity, as though the ship itself was alive and breathing. The alien fleet formed a loose perimeter, trying to intimidate the humans, with coordinated maneuvers and pulsing energy signatures that were meant to demonstrate superiority. But the humans did not react with fear or aggression. Instead, they continued their course, the captain giving subtle adjustments to shields and engine vectors to test the alien response, and the aliens whispered among themselves, unable to comprehend why the humans were not panicking. It was as if they were facing an unknown intelligence that refused to act predictably, and the human crew monitored the alien movements, noting every hesitation, every adjustment, every attempt at intimidation, and they responded not with anger but with calculated strategy. The tactical officer mapped potential attack patterns and highlighted weak points. In the alien formation, the weapons officer ran simulations and prepared targeting arrays that could disable multiple alien ships in a single coordinated strike. Yet the humans did not fire. They did not signal hostility. They merely existed as a perfect balance of readiness and control, and the alien commanders grew frustrated, their communications filled with anxious questions and demands to retreat. The humans ignored the pleas, their silence louder than any weaponry, and as the distance closed, the aliens finally made the first move, sending a barrage of energy pulses meant to test the human defenses. But the shields held effortlessly, dispersing the attacks in ways that defied every alien calculation. The crew adjusted the shields, with fluid precision absorbing and redirecting the energy, while the engines repositioned the ship with a grace that left the aliens in awe and terror. Simultaneously, it was clear that humans were not just reacting, they were anticipating the actions of the alien fleet with a level of insight that no alien command had ever expected. The bridge of the human battleship buzzed with quiet efficiency, the captain issuing orders with the clarity of someone who understood that confidence was more dangerous than firepower, and the crew executed every command flawlessly. The alien commanders began to realize that they had underestimated humanity, not because humans were weak, but because they were unpredictable, clever, adaptable, and utterly fearless, and the aliens tried to coordinate a new attack. A more synchronized strike meant to overwhelm the humans with numbers and technology. But the humans countered every maneuver with inventive strategies that seemed almost instinctually. Humans used asteroids and spatial anomalies to their advantage, weaving in and out of potential threats with a speed and agility that made the alien sensors lag behind. And yet they did not fire a single shot of lethal force, they merely demonstrated their capacity to do so, leaving the aliens in a state of growing panic. The alien communications scrambled as commanders yelled orders that were impossible to follow. The humans studied their opponents with a mix of curiosity and cold efficiency, noting weaknesses and inconsistencies without displaying arrogance, and the alien fleet began to fracture in confusion, each ship trying to assert dominance while failing to coordinate effectively. The human battleship drifted slightly closer, the engines humming steadily like a predator circling a bewildered prey. The alien high command sent urgent signals demanding explanation, yet the humans gave nothing but readiness and the calm assurance that they were prepared for anything. The humans' restraint only heightened the fear and awe that the aliens felt, as they realized that humanity was not aggressive for aggression's sake, but that they possessed a mastery of space combat that made them untouchable in ways the aliens could barely comprehend. And in that moment, the human battleship was more than a ship. It was a declaration, a symbol of a species that refused to be underestimated, and as the aliens watched, they knew with sinking certainty that this encounter would change everything, that every calculation and strategy they had relied upon for generations might no longer be valid, and the human crew remained focused on their mission, their unity, their readiness, a silent testament to the power of discipline, courage, and intelligence. In a universe that had assumed humans were insignificant, and yet, here they were, unstoppable, unpredictable, and utterly remarkable. The human battleship continued to glide gracefully through the vacuum of space, its sleek hull cutting through the darkness like a knife, and the alien fleet tried to regroup, but the humans were already 2 steps ahead. The tactics that had once been unfathomable were now playing out before their eyes. The human ship effortlessly evaded the alien weapons fire, and every attack seemed to land just a fraction too late, as if the humans knew exactly where each strike would land, before it even happened. The human crew remained calm and focused, each member aware of their role and confident in their ability to execute the plan flawlessly. The tactical officer watched the alien ships move in predictable patterns, and she smiled slightly, not out of arrogance but because she understood something the aliens did not. Humanity's greatest strength was not in their technology or their weapons. It was in their minds, the ability to adapt on the fly, to think faster and more creatively than any species they had encountered. The alien fleet had no answer for this. They were trying to overwhelm the humans with sheer firepower, but the humans were using their surroundings, their intelligence, and their flexibility to counter every move the alien commanders were growing. Desperate, their once confident voices now filled with uncertainty as they attempted to coordinate a counterstrike that might actually land a blow against the human ship. But every effort was thwarted. The human battleship slipped through the gaps in their attacks with a grace that made the aliens question their own competence. The humans were not just skilled. They were experts at reading the battlefield in ways that the aliens had never considered. And now the battlefield was theirs. The communications officer on the human ship monitored the alien frequencies and quietly relayed the information back to the captain. As the alien commanders began to argue among themselves, the humans were already preparing the next phase of their plan, a subtle maneuver that would lead the alien fleet into a trap that they would not escape. The captain of the human ship stood at the center of the bridge, looking out at the stars, his face unreadable, his focus unwavering, and he gave only one command, a single word that set the crew into motion. Engage. With that simple directive, the ship's engines roared to life, and the crew executed a series of coordinated maneuvers that took the alien fleet completely off guard. The human ship darted forward faster than any of the alien ships could track, and the aliens tried to adjust, but they were too slow. The human ship weaved through their lines with such precision that it was as if they had been born in the vacuum of space, designed specifically to fight and win. The first alien ship exploded in a burst of light as the human battleship fired a single well-aimed shot that ripped through its shields and tore its engines apart. The alien commanders had no time to react. The human ship was already on the move again. The second alien ship exploded just as quickly, and the third was disabled by a targeted energy burst that knocked out its weapons and shields. The alien fleet was reeling from the loss of 3 ships in a matter of seconds, and the humans were not finished. The aliens tried to regroup, but it was too late. The human ship continued to move with deadly precision, each strike a work of art, each move a flawless execution of a plan that had been months in the making. The human crew did not waste a single moment. They worked together as one seamless unit, each member anticipating the needs of the others and responding without hesitation. The alien fleet could no longer keep up. Their once formidable numbers now looked weak and ineffective, as the human battleship systematically dismantled their defenses, and the alien commanders were left scrambling, trying to understand how they had been outmaneuvered so completely by a species they had once thought of as primitive and weak. And with every ship they lost, every attempt to retaliate that failed, the aliens grew more and more fearful. They realized that this was not just a battle. This was the beginning of something far greater. Humanity had not just arrived in the galaxy. They had claimed their place as a force to be reckoned with, a species whose strength came not just from their weapons, but from their minds and their ability to adapt and overcome every challenge the universe threw at them. And as the human battleship continued its assault, the alien commanders could only watch in stunned silence, knowing that they had underestimated humanity in ways they could never have imagined. And deep within the human ship, the captain gave a quiet order to prepare for the next phase of the mission, and the crew moved with the same quiet confidence as before. They had only just begun to show the galaxy what humanity was truly capable of. The alien fleet was reeling now. Their once unshakable confidence had crumbled beneath the relentless assault of the human battleship. Their communications were in chaos as commanders sent frantic orders to regroup, but the humans were always a step ahead. They had seen the weaknesses in the alien formations from the very beginning, and now they were exploiting every single one of them. The captain of the human ship watched the battlefield with a calm that bordered on eerie. He had seen battles before, but this was something entirely different. The aliens were not just fighting to win, they were fighting to survive. Their earlier attacks had been bold and confident, but now they were disorganized and confused. Their weapons were ineffective against the human ship's shields, and their tactics seemed to have no effect on the humans' constant movement. The humans were no longer just responding. They were dictating the pace of the battle, and the aliens could not keep up. And as the alien fleet tried to regroup, their fear began to show. The once proud, Commanders were now reduced to barking orders with no clear direction. The alien soldiers could feel the shift in morale as they saw their comrades fall one by one. The human ship was a ghost in the storm, striking when and where it was least expected, and the aliens could not adapt quickly enough. Their superior numbers had become meaningless in the face of human ingenuity, and the fear began to spread among the ranks of the alien fleet. It was a subtle thing. At first, whispers of uncertainty, rippling through their communications, but it grew louder with every passing minute. And as the human ship closed in on the final target, the alien high command scrambled to send reinforcements. But the humans were already on the move. The captain gave one simple command: prepare for the final phase, and the crew executed it flawlessly. The human ship's weapons hummed with power as the tactical officer lined up the next series of shots, and the captain's expression remained unchanged. The human ship moved like a predator stalking its prey. The crew worked in perfect unison, anticipating each move before it was made. And when the alien ships tried to form a defensive line, the humans tore through it effortlessly, as though it was made of paper, not metal. And the captain could feel the tension on the bridge. The quiet hum of the ship's engines was like the calm before the storm. And when the moment came, he did not hesitate. The first alien ship fell to a single burst of concentrated energy, its shields crumpling under the force of the human weaponry. The aliens tried to react, but they were too slow, and the second ship was destroyed in the same instant, and then a third and a fourth, and with each explosion, the alien commanders could feel their grip on the situation slipping. They had thought they could overwhelm humanity with sheer numbers, but now they were realizing that humanity's true strength lay in its ability to think faster, to adapt more quickly than any species they had ever encountered. The fear among the alien fleet reached a boiling point, and it was no longer just uncertainty. It was panic. The once strong alien fleets were scattering, trying to flee from the human battleship, but the humans did not pursue. They did not need to. The alien commanders had already lost the battle. The human ship had proven its superiority in ways they could never have anticipated. And now they were left with nothing but the bitter taste of defeat. And the humans on board the battleship moved with quiet determination as they executed the final phase of the operation. Each crew member knowing exactly what needed to be done. No bravado. No show of force, just a calm execution of a plan that had been laid out long ago. The human captain stood on the bridge watching as the last alien ship tried to flee into deep space. He knew it was over, but there was no need for celebration. The crew had done their job and the mission had been completed, and the aliens were left with a simple truth: that they had been too quick to judge humanity, that they had underestimated the humans' capacity for creativity and resilience, that no matter how powerful or technologically advanced they might be, the human spirit was something that could not be calculated or contained. And as the alien fleet scattered into the depths of space, the captain turned to his crew and said one word: done. And they moved quietly back to their stations, ready to face whatever came next in a galaxy that had just learned the true meaning of human power. The alien fleet had been shattered, but still, they didn't fully grasp what had just happened. Their belief in their superiority hadn't vanished entirely. They had retreated not in surrender but in confusion. They could not understand how such a small force could outmaneuver and overpower a much larger one, how the humans had taken everything they had thrown at them and turned it back against them. With such ruthless efficiency, their commanders still believed they had a chance to regroup and recover. But the humans had already proven that it was too late. The alien high command had spent centuries believing that their technology, their numbers, and their military strategies were infallible. But they had been wrong. The human battleship now hovered in the midst of what remained of the alien fleet, its weapons still at the ready and its shields unscathed. The human captain stood at the center of the bridge, his gaze unwavering as he surveyed the battlefield, his expression calm as ever. But inside, he was already thinking of the next move, the next challenge. He had seen the panic in the alien commander's eyes, and he knew that it was only a matter of time before they fully understood just how deep their mistake had been. The tactical officer stood at her station, running scans of the remaining alien vessels. They were scattered now, broken and leaderless, their movements slow and erratic as they tried to re-establish a formation that had long since crumbled. She didn't need to speak. for the captain to know what was happening. The alien fleet was finished. The humans had made it clear that they were not to be underestimated, but there was no room for complacency. The captain knew that the true victory wasn't just in defeating the alien fleet. It was in showing them that humanity was not just a species that could be easily pushed aside. The humans had shown them that they could match them in technology and in strategy. But more importantly, they had shown the galaxy that the human spirit was unbreakable, and that no matter what odds were stacked against them, humanity would always find a way to rise above it all. And as the final alien ship turned to flee into the vastness of space, the captain gave the order to fire. But this time it wasn't to destroy, it was to send a message. The human battleship fired a single shot, a clean strike that disabled the alien vessel without causing it to explode. The message was clear: humanity did not seek needless destruction. They had already proven their point, and now they were letting the aliens go. Not out of mercy, but out of sheer dominance. The alien ship drifted through space, a silent symbol of humanity's power and restraint. And in the moments that followed, the remaining alien ships stopped fleeing and began to gather together their leaders, knowing that this was the moment of truth. Their only hope now was to negotiate, to find some way to salvage what little dignity they had left. But they could not hide their fear. It was written on their faces and broadcasted to the universe in the faint static of their communications. The human crew watched the aliens carefully but did not react to their desperate pleas for mercy. The humans had already won, and they knew it. The captain turned to his crew and gave a small nod. "Stand down," he said, his voice calm as ever, and the crew followed his lead as the tension drained from the bridge. The captain's expression softened just slightly. He knew that today's battle would be remembered, but it was only a small part of the larger picture humanity had shown the galaxy, that they were no longer the weak and insignificant species that the aliens had thought them to be. They were not just survivors. They were warriors, thinkers, innovators, and above all, they were relentless. The humans had proven that, no matter how many times they were knocked down, they would always rise again, they would always push forward, and no enemy could stand against them for long. And as the human battleship slowly turned to head back toward their home sector, the captain looked out into the stars and saw not just a battlefield but a galaxy that would never be the same again. Humanity had arrived and there was no going back. They had proven themselves to the universe. And now their place among the stars was assured. The alien High Command was in chaos, their ships were scattered, their forces broken, and their belief in their superiority shattered. The humans had done something they could not comprehend. They had taken on the alien fleet and emerged victorious without losing a single ship. The alien commanders were left to stare at the aftermath of their failed offensive, and they couldn't understand it. The humans had shown them something that no one had ever expected. Humans were not just resilient. They were calculating, unpredictable, and above all, relentless. The alien fleet tried to regroup, but the damage had already been done. The fear among their ranks had taken root, and it spread like a virus. The fleet that had once been a symbol of invincibility was now fractured and terrified, and it wasn't just the fleet commanders who felt this fear. It had spread to the soldiers too. The alien warriors who had once been taught to fear nothing now quaked at the thought of facing another human assault. And the alien fleet's retreat was no longer about regrouping, it was about survival. They didn't know how to fight an enemy that did not respond in predictable ways. The humans had used every advantage against them. They had turned the very elements of space into their weapons, and their ship had moved with the grace and speed of a predator, chasing down its prey. And each time the aliens thought they had a chance to fight back, the humans anticipated their every move before they even made it. The alien commanders were desperate. They began sending out desperate calls for reinforcements, pulling in every ship they could from the far reaches of their territory. But even they knew it would take time for those ships to arrive. And in the meantime, the humans were not slowing down. The human battleship continued its hunt. It moved with purpose, cutting through the vacuum of space like a blade, and every alien ship that remained in its path tried to flee, but there was no escape. They were outclassed in every way. The alien ships could fire their weapons, but the human ship's shields absorbed the energy with ease. And when they tried to evade the humans' precision, targeting systems locked onto them with terrifying accuracy. The human battleship was not just a machine. It was a symbol of humanity's brilliance. The captain stood at the center of the bridge watching the movements of the remaining alien fleet, his hands resting on the console as he watched their futile attempts to flee. He did not feel the rush of battle. He did not feel excitement. He felt only a deep sense of duty to finish what had been started. The humans had shown their strength, and now it was time to prove their resolve. The tactical officer beside him was equally calm. She had run through every possible outcome, and she knew what needed to be done next. "Prepare the fleet," the captain said quietly. His voice cutting through the silence of the bridge. The crew moved in perfect harmony. As the plan was set into motion, each member of the team knew their role and executed it with flawless precision. The ship's engines hummed with quiet power as it adjusted its course, and the weapons officer began to lock onto the remaining alien ships. The humans were not just reacting to the alien moves, they were in complete control. They knew the battlefield better than the aliens knew themselves, and they were about to make their final move. The aliens attempted to regroup once more, but they were too slow. Their ships were already being targeted, and the humans were already striking with the overwhelming force of a species that had fought for their survival from the very beginning. The first alien ship exploded as a concentrated beam of energy shot through its shields and ripped into its core. The crew on the human ship did not flinch. They moved with practiced efficiency as the next ship was targeted and disabled, and then the next, and with each explosion, the alien fleet grew smaller and smaller until only a handful of ships remained. Their attempt to regroup had failed, and their hope of victory had vanished. The humans had taken everything they had thrown at them and turned it back against them with a precision and skill that no one had ever anticipated. The alien commanders finally realized the truth. They had been beaten not by a superior force, but by a superior mind. The humans had shown them that no matter how advanced their technology was, no matter how powerful their fleets were, humanity would always find a way to adapt and overcome. And as the remaining alien ships tried to flee into the depths of space, the captain of the human battleship knew it was time to finish this. The humans had already proven their dominance, and now the alien threat would be eradicated once and for all. The final shots rang out, and the last of the alien ships was destroyed. And as the silence settled over the battlefield, the humans knew that they had not only won a victory, they had sent a message to the entire galaxy that humanity was a force to be reckoned with and that nothing could stand in their way. The final remnants of the alien fleet drifted through space, their once proud ships now broken and shattered remnants of a failed empire that had dared to challenge humanity and lost. The human battleship floated among the wreckage of the alien ships, its hull untouched, its weapons still silent as the crew watched the destruction unfold on their screens. But there was no celebration on the bridge. There was no sense of triumph, only quiet satisfaction in knowing that the battle had been won. The captain stood at the center of the bridge, his eyes scanning the vast emptiness of space as the alien fleet dispersed in all directions. Their fear was palpable, and the silence that followed the battle spoke volumes. Humanity had not only defeated the alien fleet, but they had done so with precision and skill that the aliens could never have expected. Their arrogance had been their undoing. They had underestimated the humans, believing them to be weak and primitive, when in fact it had been the humans' greatest strength, their adaptability that had turned the tide, and now the galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. The tactical officer looked up from her station as she relayed the last of the data to the captain. The remaining alien ships were retreating into deep space, trying to escape into the unknown, hoping to regroup, but it was already too late. The humans had already shown them that their place in the galaxy had changed forever, and as the final alien ship turned and fled into the dark expanse of space, the captain gave the order to stand down. The crew moved with practiced efficiency as the battle concluded and the human battleship began its slow retreat back into friendly space. Their mission was complete, and humanity had proven itself not just as survivors, but as a dominant force in the galaxy. And as the crew went about their duties, the captain turned to the communications officer. "Send the message," he said, his voice firm. "Send it to the galaxy." And the officer nodded without hesitation as she prepared the transmission, a simple message that would echo through the stars and reach every corner of the galaxy. "Humanity has arrived." She spoke into the microphone, and the message was broadcasted across the void. For every alien species to hear, the words would reverberate through every star system, every listening post, every military command, and they would know that humanity was no longer a fledgling species. They were a force to be reckoned with, and the galaxy had just learned a very valuable lesson. The captain stood there for a moment, his eyes still fixed on the vast expanse of space as he reflected on what had just transpired. Humanity had come a long way from the early days of war and struggle. They had risen from the ashes of their own wars and built a society that was capable of achieving the impossible. And now they had proven to the galaxy that no matter how many times they had been pushed down, no matter how many times they had been told they were insignificant, they would always rise again and fight with everything they had. The crew continued their work, silently, but the weight of their actions was felt throughout the ship. They had done more than just win a battle. They had sent a message to every corner of the galaxy that humanity was here to stay, and they would not be silenced again. The captain turned to his crew with a sense of quiet pride, knowing that this battle would be remembered for generations to come. Humanity had proven its strength not just through its weapons, but through its will to survive and its ability to adapt to anything that came its way. And as the human battleship sailed through the stars, the captain allowed himself a brief moment of reflection. He knew that the road ahead would not always be easy, that there would be more challenges to face and more battles to fight, but for the first time he felt certain of one thing. Humanity was no longer an afterthought in the galaxy. They had proven themselves, and the universe would never be the same again. As the captain stood there looking at the stars, the final thought that crossed his mind was simple but profound. This is only the beginning. And with that, the ship sailed on into the unknown, ready to face whatever came next, for humanity had found its place among the stars. The human battleship drifted silently through the aftermath of the battle, the debris of the shattered alien fleet scattered across the void. In the quiet aftermath of the storm, the crew moved with steady hands and sharp focus, each member knowing that their work was far from over. Though the battle had been won, humanity had just begun to make its mark on the galaxy. The captain stood tall on the bridge, his gaze steady as he looked out over the vastness of space. No celebration, no applause, just the weight of what they had done and what lay ahead. Humanity had fought not just for survival, but for something far greater. They had fought to show the universe that they were a force that would not be overlooked. They had fought to prove that no matter how small, no matter how outnumbered, no matter how underestimated, humanity would rise and face whatever challenges lay ahead, with the same relentless spirit that had carried them through their history. The alien fleet had thought they could break the humans, but instead the humans had broken their expectations, shattered the idea that they were a weak and insignificant species. The alien commanders now fled into the darkness of space, terrified and humbled by the raw strength of humanity. But it wasn't just their weapons that had proven humanity's might. It was their minds, their ability to adapt and to overcome every obstacle that was thrown at them. No matter how dire the situation had become, humanity had fought with brilliance, with heart, and with unity. The crew remained calm and collected as they worked to bring the ship back to its home sector. The battle was over, but the war for respect had only just begun. As the captain turned to his crew, he knew that this victory would echo across the galaxy, and that the galaxy would never forget humanity's name. They had fought to prove they were worthy of their place in the stars, and they had done so with honor and strength. Humanity had arrived not as conquerors, but as equals, and soon the entire galaxy would know their name no longer. Would they be the underdogs? No longer would they be the ones waiting for permission to be heard. No longer would they be the species that everyone underestimated. Humanity had proven that they could stand tall among the stars, and that was something that could never be taken away as the human battleship turned toward the familiar territory of their home sector. The crew stood in silent unity, knowing that their actions today had set the stage for the future of humanity in the cosmos. They had made their mark. They had proven their worth, and the universe would never be the same again. And with that quiet realization, the ship sailed on into the stars, ready for whatever came next. The journey of humanity had only just begun, and the stars were theirs for the taking. The end.